A name appeared on a European list in April 2026 that had not appeared on the American one, and that asymmetry is the entire story. The European Union added Yangzhou Yangjie Electronic Company to its own restricted entity list, independently, without Washington having moved first. The text of that designation can be read twice, once for what it plainly records, and once for what it conspicuously declines to say. The gap between those two readings traces how Europe is assembling a chip sector enforcement capacity the document never announces. One document, two readings, and the silence between them is the point. Yangzhou Yangjie is a Jiangsu-based manufacturer of diodes, rectifiers, and discrete semiconductor components. The designation records its registered name, its jurisdiction, and the legal instrument under which the European Union acted. It establishes a compliance obligation. European exporters may no longer supply the company with controlled goods without authorization. The document states a date, names a legal basis, and identifies a category of restricted goods. It does not wander. It performs exactly the function a restricted entity listing is designed to perform, and it does so under European authority alone. The goods categories named in the listing are worth pausing on. Diodes and rectifiers are not the headline components of advanced artificial intelligence or high-performance computing. They are mid-range and commodity adjacent, the kinds of parts that move in very large volumes across supply chains that advanced logic restrictions rarely reach. The record shows the European Union's concern here extends below the layer of cutting-edge fabrication into the broader semiconductor supply chain. That is what the document establishes. It does not establish why that concern focused on this particular company rather than others in the same product category. Reading the document again for what it does not say produces a different kind of record. The text contains no reference to the Bureau of Industry and Security. It does not cite the United States Entity List. It does not describe coordination with Washington, and it does not invoke any American designation as precedent or trigger for the European action. That absence is not a minor drafting detail. European Union sanctions instruments that follow an American lead tend to note the alignment, because doing so strengthens the legal rationale and signals coordinated multilateral pressure across jurisdictions. The legal vocabulary for that kind of alignment exists and is routinely used. This document uses none of it. The document also does not name the end-use concern that prompted the designation. It does not say military end use. It does not say diversion. It does not name a specific transaction, a specific shipment, or a specific destination market that served as a trigger. This is the document's most careful silence. The omission of a name-triggering event means the evidentiary basis for the listing is not on the face of the record. The European Union may be protecting an intelligence source, acting on commercial supply chain analysis, or asserting a precautionary posture before a documented concern fully crystallizes. The document does not settle which of those explanations is correct. What it does settle is that Europe did not feel compelled to explain itself by reference to Washington's determinations or Washington's timetable. There is a practical reason why discrete semiconductors end up on a restricted list, even when they are not the most advanced components in the supply chain. Think of it this way. If the primary engine components in a given supply chain have already been cut off through earlier rounds of controls, the components that remain available and still enable function become the actual target of any further restriction. Diodes and rectifiers occupy roughly that position in supply chains where more advanced parts have already been embargoed. They are not the headline, but they are what still moves, and their continued movement is what keeps restricted assembly lines operational. The document does not mention Yangzhou Yangjie's export history to any specific third country destination. It names no country of concern. It does not reference documented recoveries of Chinese-manufactured discrete components from munitions, even though such recoveries have appeared in publicly available reporting on battlefield equipment analysis. The EU wrote a restriction that works legally without requiring a public evidentiary case. That restraint is itself informative. It reflects a more mature enforcement posture than Europe has historically exercised in this sector, where until recently, the pattern was to follow American-led restriction regimes rather than to generate independent determinations. The designation also names no allied jurisdiction as a co-designating party. It does not invoke the Wassenaar Arrangement. It does not cite language from Group of 7 chip coordination efforts. The European Union is not presenting this listing as part of a coordinated Western response. It is presenting it as a European Union action, and that framing is sustained through every clause of the document without exception. Now, for what that accumulation of omissions means when placed together. The document does not establish that the European Union acted without any informal input from American counterparts. It establishes only that no such input appears in the text and that no coordination was formally recorded or claimed. An absent coordination clause is not proof that no conversation occurred. It is proof that no alignment was considered necessary to state. Those are different claims, and the document only settles the second one. The independent record on European Union entity list practices in the semiconductor sector is thin enough that a single listing cannot, on its own, establish whether April 2026 represents a new enforcement doctrine or a one-time action on a specific intelligence thread. The document does not answer that question, and reading it as if it does would be its own kind of error. What the document does settle is narrower and more durable than either of those larger claims. On this date, for this company, Europe wrote its own designation without citing anyone else's authority. The restriction is written into the text. The independence claim is in the margins, visible precisely because the coordination language that would have appeared if Europe had been following someone else's lead is absent. Read across both passes, the designation establishes something it never directly states: that the European Union now has, and has exercised, an independent enforcement instrument in the chip sector, one that does not require Washington to move first and does not ask Washington's permission to be recorded. The document is not a declaration of strategic autonomy. Declarations can be walked back. This is quieter than that, and therefore more durable. It is a functioning legal action that operates entirely within European legal authority and requires no outside validation to remain in force. The most consequential sentence in this document may be the one that was never drafted. The coordination clause that would have appeared if Europe had needed to explain itself by reference to someone else's determination is simply not there. That missing sentence is the record. The next document worth reading closely is whatever the European Union publishes, or conspicuously does not publish, when it either expands this list or leaves it exactly where it is for the next 12 months. Whether that next move arrives or fails to arrive will tell us whether April 2026 was a posture or a precedent, and the direction that silence points will be legible to anyone who knows what language a coordinated action would have used. If that is the kind of close reading you want to be here for, subscribe and turn on notifications. We will read the next document together when it surfaces.